Hi everyone, it's Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen in San Diego, California under stay-at-home orders along with Microwave Boy on the camera. Hi Microwave Boy.
Hello Steph.
And Daisy is in the living room, but she will undoubtedly be running in here and whining because she's really worked up this morning and driving us crazy. So today I'm making Ikea's Swedish meatballs for the first time. They just provided their recipe last week and I thought it would be fun. I have a great memory of going to Ikea with Microwave Boy's mom and his sister, and we had the Swedish meatballs and it was delicious, so I wanted to give it a try. So what I did was I read through the recipe last night and I made the meatballs up last night, which might feel like cheating, but they did need to chill for 2 hours. So essentially you're just put on a pair of food gloves and just mash the ingredients together, made up the balls.
So that's beef?
So it's beef and pork, and I forgot to pull this out. I'll be right back. Left it over here. Wanted to show you what I use. So this is what I use. So it's these are called dishers. They're used in food service. This is a number 30, which is 1 fluid ounce or 30 mil. And this is the one that I dedicate for meatballs. So I never use it on cookies or anything like that. And so that's why they're so nice and uniform. Now, I will say that there was an imprecise aspect to this recipe, which can be a problem when you find recipes online, that it called for 1 onion. No idea what size onion. And so my onions happen to be ginormous, and it's supposed to be finely diced. So when I finely diced one of my ginormous onions, I ended up with 3 cups of finely diced onion, and I thought, that's a lot of onion for 1.5 pounds of meat. It's a 1/2 pound of pork and a pound of beef mixed together. So I only used 2 of the cups. I also feel like my dicing was still even a little bit too not fine enough. So I have kind of onion chunks that may fall out of my meatballs, so we shall see how well they stick together. I did use gluten-free bread for these, and I used non-dairy milk. So, but otherwise I pretty much followed the recipe. There's an egg in there, clove of garlic. This is when you would use your garlic press because you get really nice fine bits of garlic, which is nice. You want those dispersed in there. So we're gonna see how this goes, but I may, when I put the recipe up, say, I think it should just be 1 cup of onion, and I should have done the food processor to really finely mince it so that it really dispersed a lot better. So I'm gonna put a tablespoon of oil. This pan has been heating. The oven, so these are fried and then browned and then baked. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. They don't even specify how much oil. You might also use something neutral like grapeseed or avocado oil if you have that, or filtered coconut oil if you prefer that. Daisy's figured out that there's meatballs, and so what I'm going to use is my tongs to place the meatballs in, and ooh, I'm getting that nice sizzle, which is very exciting. Then I'm going to do my best. I don't know if they're all going to even fit in here. Now, this is the sort of recipe that when I first read it, I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to brown these in the oven safe pan, which is that silver pan. This is also oven safe, by the way, but you can see some of my meatballs are not quite as round because they got sort of squashed together, but that's okay. I'm not going to be super picky about it. And then I could just put it straight into the oven, but pork is not very lean, this particular pork that I bought, and I don't really want them cooking in all that fat. So I want to brown them, and then I'm going to remove them to that pan and bake them in there. And then whatever pork and oil that gets left behind, I will go ahead and probably discard it, wipe it out, not down the drain. You never want to put oil down the drain, by the way. So this made 36 meatballs. You can see that they are pretty nice and uniform size. And you always want to ideally brown your meatballs first. I know it seems like a pain in the neck kind of step, but the flavor is so much better if you have the time to do it. I don't think these are all going to fit in here, although I really would like it if they would, but then I won't have space to turn them. So let me tell you what else is in the recipe. And so those are probably 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip them around. So you kind of want, it might be 12 minutes or so. You kind of, not that they have 4 sides, but you kind of want to get browning around them. And then of course, as I pull some out, I'll put these last 6 in there. And then they're going to be covered and baked for 30 minutes. Then the cream sauce, which I have to say I'm kind of excited about, is butter. So metric recipes, everything's measured on a kitchen scale. Most Americans don't have kitchen scales unless you're a food blogger like me or you're a super serious baker. So it's 3 tablespoons of butter is what I figured out. And then what they call plain flour, we would just call that all-purpose flour. It's a little bit different, but we don't have the same flours that they do in Europe. It's fine. For gluten-free roux, I like brown rice flour from my friends at Bob's Red Mill. Not that they gave it to me, I bought it from them, but I love them. 1/3 of a cup is about the equivalent. And then 10 ounces of stock. So that's, you can see I've got 10 ounces on my nice little measuring cup. It calls for half vegetable stock, half beef stock. What I have is chicken stock, so that's what I'm using. That's what was in the freezer. And then thick double cream. Don't have that either, but I've got coconut cream. And they want 5 ounces, which is like a half a cup plus a tablespoon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this can and I'm going to figure out how much water I need to add to it to make it about that, because that's going to make it it's going to make it a little coconutty, but I don't mind that. And then soy sauce or tamari or coconut aminos, which is what I have, and then a little bit of Dijon mustard. So that's the sauce recipe. I'm going to go ahead and see how these guys are looking. I'm hearing some nice sizzle, and this is why you don't want to overfill the pan, as you want to have room to turn stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of turning them a 1/4 turn. Oh, they are getting nice and brown. That's good. About a 1/4 turn. Like I said, and I'm terrible at rolling meatballs. Even mine are just, they're never round. I think I have defective palms or something. So I was trying to do that the other day when I was making those corn tortillas with my friend Annie, and it was just sad. It's like a sad state of affairs in terms of trying to do something like that. But it's okay. You know, I have other skills, just not that. So what's happening is I'm starting to see the meat is starting to turn, to go from pink to more of that white grayish color that cooked meat gets. As I'm I'd say I'm sort of rolling them at a 1/4 turn. What happens is when you cook them, you know, the side that's on the bottom will flatten, but they are holding together well, and I was a little worried about that because of the size of the onion pieces. Oops. All right, well, see, I just had a big piece of onion fall out. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. So you see that they're getting brown. You see I had a piece of onion just fall out. That will happen. And I'm just kind of gently rolling them. Thank you, microwave boy, for coming over here. You know, it's a tricky thing because he's actually holding two things to do that. So it's a very high-tech operation over here in this kitchen. Ooh. And now that I'm cooking meat on the stove, Daisy has decided that she's just going to be right under my feet, watching me, supervising, which is great, because I do need all the help I can get. So thank you, Daisy. All right. So I'm going to give them probably another minute or 2. Then maybe turn them one more time. They don't have to be brown. I mean, it's nice if they're browned all over, but they don't really have to be browned all over. And then I'm going to put them into the container, the Dutch oven, lid on. They'll go in the oven for 30 minutes. And we can stop the video here, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to be making the cream sauce. Now this, I definitely have modified this because I'm gluten-free and I try not to eat a lot of dairy because it doesn't really agree with me so much. So I am using butter, but I'm not using heavy cream. I've got brown rice flour, and when I did the conversions, it's 3 tablespoons of butter and about 1/3 of a cup of flour. And I like brown rice flour as a gluten-free thickener. So we're making what's called a roux, R-O-U-X, and that's a cooked flour and butter mixture that then thickens. It's the base for gravy, it's the base for bechamel, which we'll be using for the moussaka, and it's also just like a creamy sauce. So the other ingredients are, they call for 5 ounces of vegetable stock, 5 ounces of beef stock. I have 10 ounces of chicken stock because that's what I've got. And then I don't have soy sauce in the house, but I do have coconut aminos, so I'll be using that and some Dijon mustard. So I've got my I'm sorry I don't have like glass pans or an overhead camera, but I will tilt stuff for you so you can see. So first I'm just going to melt the butter. And once that butter is completely melted, so I've got the stove on, this is number 6, I guess, out of 10. So I guess it would be slightly higher than medium. It's kind of where I live on this burner most of the time. And you don't want to burn the butter, so you want to keep an eye on it, you want to keep moving it around. As soon as the butter is completely melted, I don't know if you can see in there or not, but as soon as it's completely melted, I'm going to put that flour in. And then I'll be whisking it and cooking it for 2 minutes. So you want to for sure cook the flour. Uncooked flour has a terrible taste. It's gritty. It does not work. So that's the goal number 1. So the meatballs are in the oven, and this timer was set. So they've been in almost 10 minutes. So I finished browning the last of those meatballs, and then they all went in with a lid on it. Almost melted. And then I'm going to sprinkle my flour in, use a whisk. Now this particular pan, I really wish I had a silicone whisk because I don't want to be scratching it. So I'm very careful when I'm whisking with this pan. Just got a little bit of butter, one little chunk of butter that doesn't want to melt. There it goes. It's almost done. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it in, whisk around. You don't want lumps. Lumps are bad. Are lumps ever good? I don't think they really ever are good, are they? Lumpy bed. Lumpy sauce. Yeah, I don't think there's ever a situation where a lump is good. Alright, so what happens is you get like this paste. Can you see that? See the paste? That's what we're looking for. That's the roux. And you want to cook it for 2 minutes. So the trick is it kind of gets stuck in the whisk, and you want to get it into the pan so it's actually cooking. You want it to turn like a golden brown. I'm going to have to be guessing on the timing. Alright, so I put it in at 17, so when we get down to 15, I'll be about done. So I kind of stir it around, but this is the point where you don't leave it alone. You don't walk away. This is one of those, it's not a super, actually this is a more intensive recipe with forming the meatballs and all that. Now I'm getting some bubbling of the butter, which is not a bad thing, but I want to keep an eye. I don't want it to go dark brown, and I don't obviously want it to burn, so I'm just really keeping a close eye on that. I might turn the heat down just a smidge, just to kind of keep an eye on it. Got 1 more minute, and then I'll show it to you because you can see that it is turning color, which is good. It is browning up, and then we're going to be pouring in, I think all the other ingredients, but let me just have to double check. So what I'm doing is I stir it, whisk it, and then I tap everything back into the pan, and got some nice bubbling. It's definitely getting a nice brown, warm brown color, which is what I'm looking for. Now, I don't know if you can hear, it's definitely gotten more bubbly and cooking harder, so I'm going to adjust. This is what I love about gas. It's very hard for me to cook on electric if I have to, because you can just adjust it and it instantly changes, which is what's really helpful. Okay, so let's just feels like it should be about right. Okay, so that's been 2 minutes. See, can you see that? There we go. No, can't see it. Hang on. Not really.
That's
That's as good as it's gonna get, huh? All right. So it's like a warm brown color. That's what I was looking for. I'm sorry that I can't see better in my pan. Okay. Add stock and continue to stir. All right. So do that. Okay. What I like to do is add just a little at a time because again, you don't want lumps. You add it all at once, so what's happened is now it's just all clumped up. It's okay. Just gonna keep whisking. Very clumpy. Hopefully not a problem. Okay, it's declumpifying now. Now it's kind of getting like almost like a pudding consistency. This feels like there should be more liquid than this, but we'll see.
What do you think it's going to look like?
Well, so if I was using white flour and cream, it would be like a thick, not a super thick, creamy sauce. I'll bring it over and show you in a second with a spoon so you can actually see what's going on. Okay, so what just happened was we went from very thick to not thick at all, which is fine because it's going to thicken up by being cooked. Okay, so that's, can you see that? All right, so see, very thin now, but no lumps because that's what we wanted. And I don't know if you can see the brownness of it or not. It's like a nice, not even quite caramel, like a blonde color, I guess I would describe it. Okay, so let me go back to my recipe because again, I have not made this before. Add vegetable and beef stock or chicken stock and continue to stir. Add remaining ingredients. Bring to a simmer. Okay. So I might turn the heat back up a little bit. All right, so what I ended up doing was 5 ounces of thick double cream is about a half a cup plus a tablespoon. When I measured out this 5.4 ounce can of organic coconut cream, I ended up with a half a cup of the actual cream and probably a couple tablespoons of the liquid. So what I'm going to do is...
How did you do that?
What do you mean?
Did you filter something out of it?
No. So coconut cream separates naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's liquid there's always going to be liquid in the bottom of it.
Right.
And so when I opened the can, I just started scooping it out, and the half cup was basically kind of filled that up. And I was like, oh, okay, well then I'm just going to probably use a tablespoon of that, but thank you for asking. Okay, I can hear that it's bubbling over here, and it's definitely, let me show you how much it's thickened in just that 2 minutes or so. All right, so we've already got, it's already thicker. Okay, so that's what we're going for, is a nice creamy sauce. Now this is going to add a lot of fat and richness. Always good things in moderation. I'm going to whisk that in, and then I'm going to add my tablespoon of liquid so that we get at least the right ratio, what they called for. This leftover stuff is great in smoothies. So if you don't end up using all of it, it's really nice for smoothies. And then I'm going to add really the only seasoning. Of course, they might have called for salt and I deleted it, but because that's what I tend to do. This is salty. This Dijon is salty, so for me, I don't need anything besides that. So this is a soy sauce substitute made from coconut, called Coconut Aminos. It's a little bit lower in sodium. It's a little bit less intensive for me as a migraine person. And then the Dijon mustard is a tablespoon, which is actually very thinned out because it's the very end of my jar. All right. Okay, so now it is bubbling around the edges. Very pretty color. So I'm question would be like, how much do you cook it down? So we've got 10 minutes. I'm gonna bring it over so you can see it
10
again.
minutes to meatballs.
10 minutes to meatballs. So now you could certainly serve the meatballs in a sauce of this consistency, but I probably will cook it a few more minutes. Just make sure, yeah, so I'm not really, there's not any lumps, but there's maybe some flour on the bottom that's not completely, but you can see it's coating the back of the spoon and holding together. I'm gonna give that a little taste. It's very mild. I think if it had the beef broth, which is what it called for, would have a little, are you supervising, Daisy? Yeah, I know, Mommy's making cream sauce. It might have a slightly stronger, more umami flavor if I had had beef stock or beef broth to use. But it has a very nice flavor. It's pretty simple, and that's the thing about Swedish meatballs. They aren't like a really fancy dish. The first time I think I ever had them was in Balboa Park. We went to a thing that used to be called Christmas on the Prado, and now is it called December Nights or something now, my great boy?
Nights of Christmas, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's called December Nights now. But they have all these international, there's called international cottages over there, and each one has like a group of people that is of that heritage. And so we went and had Swedish meatballs, and I think that was the first time, although maybe I had them in Chicago at Ann Satter's when I lived there. And then we went to Ikea when my great boys, probably like 20 years ago, your mom and your sister came. We went to Ikea, which ours, the one that we have here is 2 stories. And we spent, I don't know, like an hour and a half on the first floor. And his
Trying
mom,
to find your way out.
well, trying to find our way out, but also just having fun shopping. We didn't have anything we were trying to buy, which is the ideal way to visit Ikea. And we finally get to the checkout, and your mom was so disappointed that that it was the experience was over. And I said, well, there's an upstairs and a restaurant, and the two of them went, oh, really? And so then we finished checking out. We went upstairs, we had lunch, and we shopped the whole second floor. So that's my very positive memory of Ikea with your lovely mom and your sister. And so, okay, so I'm gonna turn the heat off on this, and I'm gonna show you why. Because we got to a really nice thickened place, and I don't want to overcook it. So can you see how nice and thick that is? It's like a really nice gravy, and I would guess this would be similar to like a southern biscuits and gravy kind of taste and consistency, although I have not made that, so. And I'm not from the South, so don't quote me, but when I think of like a cream gravy, this is what I think of. Now, of course, this is dairy-free and gluten-free. Well, not completely dairy-free. There's some butter in there. And I've got 7 minutes on my meatballs. So we will turn the camera off, come right back, so you can see the meatballs come out of the oven, and I'll taste this. So the timer's about to go off. Oh, look at that. It's like magic. And I'm going to pull the meatballs out of the oven. They smell really super yummy. Oh, they smell really good. I'll show you what they look like. Oh, keep my good boy. Delicious. And what I'm going to do is just pull one out. So in between, when we turn the camera off, and this is how I normally roll, is I've done all the dishes that were dirty, so I don't have a dirty kitchen. And I'm just going to pull one of these guys out, and I'm going to get some sauce. And so I washed these because these had been handling raw meat, so you want to make sure you wash them before you're handling the cooked meat. So that's just a nice little food safety tip. And we've got our cream sauce that has been off in terms of temperature, but sitting on the stove. So here we go, some nice little drippy cream sauce, yum. And so these are the Ikea pork and beef Swedish meatballs. You can see that they're cooked all the way through, nicely pink inside. And that's the pink is the pork, the cooked pork color. Yeah, I think that tastes like what the store serves. Honestly, it's been so long since I've had them, I don't really remember, but yeah, delicious. Of course, the stores would be much saltier than mine, but yeah, the sauce is a really nice flavor. The meatballs are super tender, so I like the browning plus baking combo. I think worked really well. And what I will do is I'll pull those meatballs out into a container to cool. Pretty quickly we'll put them into the fridge. And then I will pour the broth or the leftover juice into a heat-proof jar, put that in the fridge, and then I can skim any fat off the top. And then I've got some beefy broth that I could use like for the next time I made this if I wanted to do that. So, thank you for watching Ikea Swedish Meatballs. Thank you, Ikea, for sharing your recipe. This is not an affiliate post or anything. They don't know me. They don't have any idea I'm doing this. I would say for future, if you do this, for sure use the food processor to really mince those onions much more finely because they're still a little bit too large, but live and learn. Follow me, SWeaverMPH, on social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, follow me, Stephanie Weaver MPH, on Facebook. The recipe link is in the comments on Facebook only, okay? Thanks, guys. See you soon. Be well. Bye.